this video, I will show you everything you need to know about the Excel View tab and ribbon. You're going to learn it in depth. Let's get started. So here I have a spreadsheet about nutrients in food. And I'm going to go here to the View tab. Let's look at the View ribbon. And we're going to look at some of the ways that this View ribbon can really enhance your use of Excel. Just like my other videos in this series, we're going to take the ribbon from left to right. So let's look here at the left. There's a sheet view group. And right now, the sheet view is set to default. Now I could click there on the drop-down button, but as you can see, there is no other option. There's just default. If I want to though, I can set up a new sheet view. Now, before I do that, let me explain why this is sometimes helpful. Let's say, for example, that you use this spreadsheet as part of your work, but that there are other people that also use the same spreadsheet, and maybe they use it a little bit differently than you do. So, for example, let's say I'm a nutritionist and I'm going to be spending most of my time looking at maybe the fruits or vegetables in this list. I might go up here to row number 1 and click on it. And then I might go here to the Data tab and I could apply a filter. Now that that filter is applied, I could go here to the Category filter, and then I'm going to deselect all and I'm going to focus just on fruits and vegetables. Now, this is a powerful feature, the ability to filter. And if you're not familiar with the filter options and settings in Microsoft Excel, please watch my many other videos that focus on filtering in Excel. It's a very important skill and knowledge to have. Okay, now that I've applied that filter, I'm going to go back to the View tab and I'm going to set up a new view. Now you'll notice some of the colors in my spreadsheet have adjusted. They've changed. I like this view. I'm going to click Keep. So now I can go up to this form, to the drop-down button, click, and I have a default view and a view number 1. If I click on default view, it changes back. And here on the default view, maybe I'll remove the filters that I've set up. So I'm just going to select everything, click OK. So now in my default view, I have all of the data, everything. But if I click here and switch to view number 1, it takes me to that view that I set up. Now I could have done the order of this differently, right? I could have set up the new view and then added the filter, and that might have made more sense. But I did want you to see that you have this ability to switch back and forth from one view, the default view in this case, to this new view 1 that I've set up. And so the beauty of this is I can use view 1 for me because I'm focusing on fruits and vegetables. But maybe I have a colleague that's going to focus more on dairy and meats or on all of the data. They could either just use the default view or they could set up their own custom new view for just the data that they'll be looking at. Now, in addition to using filters to adjust and customize the view for me, I can also use sorting. So again, back at the Data tab, I'm going to go back here to column B, and I'm just going to click anywhere in the column. It doesn't really matter where, and in fact, it's better if you don't select the entire column. Just click anywhere in the column. I'll click on applesauce, for example, and then I'm going to go here on the Data tab and ribbon in the Sort and Filter group. I'm going to do a sort, but instead of clicking on sort, I'm going to click here on Z to A. Right now it's sorted A to Z. I'm going to sort it Z to A. So that's done. Now, if I go back to the View tab, here in the Sheet View group, there's my View 1 that I'm looking at. I'm going to switch now to default, and look, it's back to alphabetized A to Z, but when I go back to my View 1, it's Z to A. So that's another of the view options and adjustments that you can switch back and forth from by setting up different views. So again, if I share this spreadsheet with someone, I can have my own view that I prefer, and they can have their own view that they prefer. There are some sheet view options. You can get to them by clicking here, and you can do things like rename a sheet view. So I could click there, rename, fruits and veggies view, click save. I can also duplicate views and then rename them. Maybe this one will be just veggies. Click save. You can also delete views that you don't want or need anymore. I'll just click the X to X out of that pop-up for now. But as you can see, now I have 3 views to switch back and forth between. and they're given proper names so that it's easy for me to remember what I'll be looking at when I switch views. Now, of course, on this veggies view, I would need to go in and change the filter so that it only shows vegetables. Click OK. And now if I switch back to fruits and vegetables, I have both kinds of foods there, but in my veggies only view, I only see vegetables. So this sheet view group is a very handy option. It's very useful. A lot of Excel users don't even know about it, don't even use it, but I hope that you will try it out and you'll see many ways to use this great option. Let's move on to the next group on the View tab and ribbon. We have the Workbook Views group. And I'm going to quickly jump back to my default view just so it looks more familiar to everyone. And I'm going to turn off the filters, click OK. But here in the Workbook Views group, we have the normal view. Obviously, this is what you'll be used to seeing in most cases, just the normal view. But if you switch from normal view to page break preview, you get a totally different view of your spreadsheet. So what does this mean by page break preview? Well, this is talking about the way the data will be broken up if I print this spreadsheet. So right now, this is a very long spreadsheet, and you can see what's going to happen if I print it. I'm going to end up with page 1 that covers this data here. You can see this blue outline that shows where page 1 begins and where it ends. So about right here is where it ends. And then it'll move on to page 2 that covers that data, etc. And then at the bottom of page 24, from there it goes up here to page 25, and page 25 is just going to have one column or two columns, I guess. This is just going to be a mess if I print this the way it is right now. And Page Break Preview has let me know that, and I can now fix it in various ways. I have several videos showing how to print large spreadsheets effectively in Excel, so please watch my printing options videos and you'll really like those and learn a lot. For now, I just want to point out that these blue lines are draggable, so I can click on this blue line, for example, and drag it out here, and now all of that data will fit on page 1. Now, it still has page 2 down below, but by dragging that blue line to the right, I've saved myself probably a dozen or more pages. Now, if I browse down, you can see that instead of at least 25 pages or so, there's just 15 pages. This Page Break Preview is a good tool to help me to envision what it's going to look like if I print, and also to make some changes to how the data will fit onto a page or pages. Next, we have Page Layout View. And for Page Layout View, look, it says it's not compatible with freeze panes. I have freeze panes turned on. Again, you're going to want to watch the video on freeze panes if you're not aware of that. But it says if you continue, the panes on this sheet will be unfrozen. That's okay. I'll click OK. And so now the view of my spreadsheet and of my data has dramatically changed. It now is a page layout view. One of the nice things about page layout view is you can see the headers very clearly. And so I can add a header just by clicking, and I can type in whatever I want into the header. I could type something else over here at the right, here at the left. I also get some nice rulers that kind of help me to see and plan out the way this is going to look in the real world if I print the spreadsheet, etc. Now, in addition to headers, if I go down to the bottom, you'll see that there are also footers at the bottom of each page. And I can adjust those just like I could the headers. So there are some other nice things about this page layout view, but those are some of my favorite features and things that you can do when you're in page layout view. Now, each of those three options, normal, page break preview, and page layout, each of those is also accessible not just here on the View tab and ribbon, but down here in the lower right area of Excel. We have the normal view here. For some reason, Page Break Preview is over here. It's the third button. And then the second button is Page Layout. So it doesn't follow the same order as here in the ribbon, and I don't understand why, but there it is. Next, we have Custom Views, and I could click there to set up a custom view. And I can just click Add, give the view a name. What do I want to include in the view? Do I want print settings or not? I'm going to say no in this case, so I'll turn that off. What about hidden rows, columns, and filter settings? Yeah, I want to see those. I click OK, and now I've got a custom view that I can access by clicking here. There it is. I can select it and click Show. and it shows that view. Now, to be frank, I haven't used custom views much. That's how you can set them up, but I don't find very many ways to use those. If you have used custom views and have found them to be helpful, please post a comment below this video. I would love to hear from you how you use custom views. And I'm sure in the future, I'll figure out how I can benefit from them, and I may make a video on them in the future. I'm going to cancel out of that, and let's move over now to the next group on the View tab and ribbon. It's called Show. And these are basically little settings that you can turn on or turn off. They're toggles, more or less. So I can click here first on navigation if I want to turn on the navigation panel here at the right. If I don't want that, I can turn it off again, not by clicking on this button, but rather just clicking the X here in the upper right corner of the panel. It goes away. If I want it back, just click navigation. It comes back. Now, in my spreadsheet that I'm currently in, it's a very long spreadsheet, lots of data, but it's all just one sheet. And so the navigation panel doesn't necessarily help us much. But if I go here to the lower left and add a second sheet and maybe a third sheet, and I can just type some data there, just some random data. So now you'll start to see how the navigation panel really can be helpful. Here, now that I have multiple sheets, you can see sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. If I change the name of these sheets just by right-clicking on it and renaming it, or just double-clicking, I'll change the name to Charts. You'll see in the navigation panel here at the right, the name of that spreadsheet has changed to Charts. So imagine a really complex workbook with multiple spreadsheets, lots of different data. You could see everything here in the navigation panel and just click on a particular sheet. It will take you to that specific sheet and even a specific part of the sheet. Notice what's selected here. Because I clicked on this first button for the charts sheet, it highlighted A1, but if I click on the second one, it highlights B4. And so you can use this navigation panel to jump to different sheets in your workbook, but also different parts of specific sheets. It's really a nice handy thing when you have a big complicated workbook. We also have a search bar, so we can search for tables, charts, and more right from this panel. I'll do a search for charts, and it shows me anything related to charts, and then I can focus in on that data. So I really like this navigation panel, especially when it's a complicated workbook that you're working in. Next, we have grid lines. Do I want to see grid lines in my spreadsheets? If I turn off grid lines by unchecking the box, you can see what it looks like. It's just white. Now that setting is based on the current active sheet in your workbook. So I was on the chart sheet, and so when I turned off grid lines, it went completely white with no grid lines, but sheet 2 was unaffected. Jumping back to sheet 1, and I'm going to switch the view back to normal. I can turn off grid lines there if I'd like, and when I uncheck that, notice what happens. The background goes completely white. We don't have the individual cell lines. Now you may be asking, well, what about this? Why are there lines here? Didn't we just turn off grid lines? Yes, we did. But these are formatting options, basically. At some point, I chose to format the spreadsheet in this way. And so by removing grid lines, it does not remove that formatting that I put in earlier. I can also remove the formula bar. I think this is not a good idea. But if I uncheck formula bar, look what happens. My trusty, handy formula bar that was here disappears. And now if I need to edit a formula, I have to go to the cell that it's in, click on it, and make my changes there in the cell. Whenever I edit a formula, I almost always prefer going to the formula bar, which is here. It's just cleaner, nicer, easier. And so I don't think it's a good idea to uncheck the formula bar option, but some people like to do that, at least temporarily. It does free up some screen space for you. If you're doing a presentation or something, that might be helpful. We also have the option to turn off headings. So what you see here is A through M as my column headings. I've got my row numbers as well. If I turn off headings, both of those disappear. They're still there, but they're just not visible. So I'm going to put that back. Again, I don't think it's a great idea in most cases to turn off headings, but there are situations maybe when you need to use every bit of space because maybe you're presenting some data and you don't want to take up space with numbers and letters and formula bars. So that's what this show group is for. It does bring up the navigation panel, and then it helps us decide what to show or hide. You can see sometimes we have options for ruler to hide that or show it, but in my case, that's grayed out at this point. So that's pretty much what you need to know about the show group. Let's move on to the zoom group. And again, what we're talking about here on this tab and ribbon is view options. So when you see zoom, you should be thinking about this is going to affect how I view my data in the spreadsheet. And it's just what you would expect. When you click on zoom, it gives you options for how far to zoom in or out on the data. Right now, I'm set at a custom zoom level of 112, but I could click in the box next to custom and I could change that to, let's say, 98, tap enter, and my view changes. I'll go back to the zoom button. You can see that some of the most common options are preset here, like 100%. Just click there, click OK. And that's, one of the most common zoom levels that people use. We can go to 200%, another very common zoom level, 50%. Click OK. Now, like I pointed out before, in addition to those commonly used zoom levels, you can set custom ones that are very specific, 125, 98, 55, whatever you want to do, tap enter, and the zoom is performed. There's one other zoom option that I love that's in that button, and that is, let's say you really need to see just this data here. You can click and drag to highlight it, and then go to the zoom button and choose Fit Selection. Click OK, and just that area that I had clicked and dragged is zoomed in on so that it fits perfectly. Great. Let's move on to the next little button that's in the zoom group, and it's 100%. So even though you can get to zoom to 100% here, because that is, in many cases, the most commonly used zoom level, they have a button for it. So I can just click that button. It takes me to 100% and done. I don't have to click twice or look through a menu. You just click the button. So that's a nice feature. And zoom to selection. If you remember, there was fit selection here. Well, let's try zoom to selection. I select a range of data, click zoom to selection, and you can see it's pretty much the same exact feature. It's just that it's got its own place for you to go, so you don't have to click and look through a menu. I'm going to click back on 100%, and let's move on to the next group on the Excel View tab and ribbon. And that group is called Window. Now, Window can really be helpful, just like a lot of these view options. There's some great stuff here. For example, I can create a second window. Right now, my spreadsheet, my workbook, just has the one window that I can experience it through. I can browse down, I can scroll to the right, I can look at this data. But if I click the New Window button, I get what looks like a duplicate of that, and it is. I'm going to click and drag and pull it all the way to the right. If you're using a Microsoft Windows computer, look what happens. It enables you to snap it to the right side of your window. And then if you click, you've got your other window here at the left. And I can click here in the title bar, drag it to the left, release it, and now I've got two windows showing me the same data. And I can scroll here at the left and scroll here at the right. Now, what happens if I make a change, let's say here on the right side? I'm going to change this from Apple Crisp Homemade. I'm going to make it 2 words, Homemade. And I'll tap Enter on the keyboard. Let's look at row 5. The change was also made here at the left. I could make the change here as well. Maybe I'll put a dash. Notice that the dash is also put here at the right. And so we're really working on the same spreadsheets, the same exact data, but through 2 different windows. And this just can be very helpful. If you need to look at 2 different parts of your spreadsheet at the same time, create a second window. Look at it here at the right, and then you can enter the data or continue to work and add more information, whatever it might be. Now, in addition to creating new windows, you can also arrange those windows. So I can click Arrange All, and I could tile them. I could arrange them horizontally. Click OK. Now they're arranged horizontally. I can go back to Arrange All vertically. Click OK. I think that's a little better, a little more useful. When I'm done using a particular window, I can just go here to the View tab and ribbon and go here to the Window group and choose Hide Window, and it goes away. I'm going to maximize this window here to get back to the full view. So we do have the Hide button. We also have Unhide, and it can bring back that second view. So that's nice. We also have Split. If I click Split, look what it does. I get a vertical line and a horizontal line. and I can browse and scroll left and right here in the upper left corner, independent of the other areas of this spreadsheet. I can also do that in the lower left, in the upper right area, and the lower right area. So split is an interesting option. I'm going to deselect that to get back. And next, let's look at one of the most commonly used features in Microsoft Excel. It's freeze panes. We can use freeze panes to make sure that certain data is always visible on the screen. So for example, if you look at my spreadsheet, there are many, many different rows. There's hundreds of rows. It looks like it gets up into the 1,000 range. And so as I'm working, let's say in row number 100, it could be easy for me to forget what these numbers mean. It would be nice if I could still see the column headings. So I would know that these are calories, this is fat, these are carbs. The way to do that is to use the Freeze Panes button. You can click on it and it gives you 3 options. Probably the most commonly used option is this one, Freeze Top Row. Once you click that, now as you browse down, you can always see the top row. I love that. I'm going to click it again and I can freeze the first column. So now, as I browse to the right, notice that the first column of data is always visible. So that's also useful. The other option is here. I'm going to first unfreeze panes to get back to the normal situation that you'll usually be in. Let's say I want to freeze the top 5 rows. I'll click here on row number 6. The entire row is selected. I'll click Freeze Panes, Freeze Panes. And now the first 5 rows are frozen. No matter how far down I go in the spreadsheet, I can see those top 5 rows. So again, it's a little confusing. If you want to freeze the top 5, select the 6th one. If you want to freeze the top 10, select the 11th row and then choose Freeze Panes. I'm going to unfreeze all panes to get back to normal. But those are some great options to help you to see your data the way you want to see it. I'm going to unhide that hidden window that I had. And the reason why is because I want you to see what these other options are for here at the right. We have View Side by Side. If you click that, you can see the data side by side. You can turn off, if you want, synchronous scrolling. So now I can scroll just in one of those 2 windows. If you turn on synchronous scrolling, you scroll in one, it scrolls in the other. I could reset window position if I want to. Just click that. So if I were to drag one of these away, I can click Reset Window Position and it goes back to where it should be, I suppose. So that's what those options are for. I'm going to click View Side by Side to deselect that and get back to my normal view. Next, we have this button here that helps me switch between windows. Because I'm not seeing them side by side, this could be very helpful. I could decide, okay, I want to see the other window. Just click here, switch to view number 2. Now I'm seeing view number 2. I can switch back now to view number 1. And so again, like many of these options on the View tab and ribbon, this button, these options help me to look at the data and my spreadsheet and even my workbook the way I want to, so that I can work the way I want to or need to. All right, we finally have gotten to the last group on the Excel View tab and ribbon. It's called Macros. And if you click the button at the top, it takes you to this macro dialog box. It pops up with a list of macros that are in your spreadsheet. I don't have any in the spreadsheet. If you want to learn more about macros, please watch my videos on that topic. I have several. A few of them are complicated, but a couple of them are easy and powerful. So if you're not familiar with macros and how to record macros, I think that's where you should start perhaps. Definitely check out those videos. You're going to love creating macros. Now, what if you click not the top of the macros button, but the bottom? What you can do there is you can choose View Macros. That's where I just was. Or Record Macros. And again, this is exciting stuff to be able to record a macro. I'm not going to show you in this video, but please check out my other videos. You're going to like that. You can also decide to use relative references in your spreadsheet or not to use relative references. And I know I refer to my other videos a lot, but again, I do have other videos that talk about relative versus absolute references. So watch those videos, please. So thank you so much for watching this video. You know, I find the View tab and ribbon in Excel to be surprisingly powerful, full of features that can really enhance my use of Excel. I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you did, please like, follow, and subscribe. And when you do, click the bell and you'll be notified when I post another video. If you'd like to support my channel, consider clicking the thanks button below the video. You could also support me by becoming a patron of mine through Patreon, or consider becoming a member of my channel. If you do, you'll get some premium bonus features, one of which is access to a members-only behind-the-scenes podcast that I'm producing, as well as other great features, and you can learn more about that by clicking the join button below the video. You could also buy channel merch, and you'll find information about all of those options by looking below the video. Thank you.